Hi guys, we've had this dining table for around a year or so. It was originally a rectangular work table that we used to use for painting on. We're happy with the size and the shape, but now it's time to upgrade to something that we don't have to cover with a cloth. So we're going for something similar in an oak finish, around 1 metre in diameter, 750 high, 2 frames, half housed, top and bottom, reducing by 9 degrees, slightly extended base to minimise the chance of it tipping. I had this oak left over from a previous job. The section size is 80 by 35. It is in fact made from 9mm oak veneered MDF, mitered and glued along the long edges. I started by removing the insert, adjusting the chop saw to 9 degrees, replacing the insert and making a new reference cut. All 8 pieces that make up the table frame will have angles on both ends, so I worked my way through the pile, trimming one end on each piece. I cut an angle on an offcut to use as a stop. I measured and marked the required length and then lined the mark up with the reference cut in the insert. I had taken all the measurements from my SketchUp drawing and just had to correctly orientate the angles. Once completed, I cut a 40mm piece from one of the offcuts and used it to set the saw depth of cut, 40mm equaling exactly half of the rail width. With the depth of cut set, I cut out a section in the bottom rails for the halving joint. I used one of the bottom rails to accurately mark out the position and size of the joint in the top rails. I cut and glued some pieces to make up the 14mm loose tenons that I required. Then went about cutting the mortises. To spare you the boredom, I'm only showing a few seconds of sanding, but in truth, most jobs require many hours of it in order to achieve a fine, high quality finish. I glue the loose tenons into the top and bottom rails. Then generously apply glue to the mortises. I use brown packaging tape, stretched taut, as a really effective method of clamping. With the frames complete, I cut the components for the table base. Unusually, my saw tilts towards the fence, so when I'm cutting pieces with miters or angles on both edges, I have to pack the workpiece up so that the sharp miter point doesn't wedge itself under the fence. I glue up the components using a technique known as a rub joint. By applying firm pressure and rubbing the two surfaces together, you dispel any air which forms a strong suction between the two surfaces, which requires no further clamping or holding. Once cut to size, I edge the beveled top pieces before gluing them in place. Once they were edged and cleaned up, I applied the beveled top pieces using the same glue up technique. I sanded the edges, making sure everything was flush, smooth and flat. Then applied wood edging to all the exposed sides and ends. After trimming back the edging and a final sand, the base was finished. I marked out and drilled the base, then attached it to the two cross frames. The base was now complete, so onto the top. I marked out the overall diameter and then divided it into 8 equal sections. I then marked out the small panels I was going to add to thicken the top up to around 30mm. Once I had worked out the exact size required, I cut the panels in both MRF and veneered MDF. I coated the panels in glue and rub jointed them into place. I added a square central panel and 4 other panels which will be used for connecting the top to the legs. Using a router, I cut out the circle. I then glued in place the oak veneered panels. Roughly cut them back with a jigsaw and then flush trimmed them with a router. I then cut and fixed the central oak veneered panels. I took off the sharp edges with a 3.2mm round over bit in my trim router and applied oak edging to the table's circumference. Once cleaned up, I applied a 3mm round over to both the top and the bottom edges. The result of the round over does expose the MDF core, but it is for us and we're both absolutely fine with that. After some more sanding, I marked out and fixed the tabletop in place using some double-sided tape to help with alignment. With everything now complete, I added a white tint to match our chairs and wall panelling and sprayed using a clear lacquer. People think that spraying is quick, and in fact it is, but the preparation before and between each of the one base and two top coats isn't. Once sprayed, it was just now a quick and easy job of reassembling the table.